everyone, it's Imogen and welcome back to Colouring Kid. I hope you're all doing well and welcome to episode 3 of Colouring Quandaries, which is a new series that I'm doing on my channel. So the past 2 episodes in the series have been talking about how to create a harmonious colour palette and just generally how to pick a colour palette for pages if you're stuck. And the aim of this series is just to go through particular things that I face when I'm colouring pictures, and there may be certain things that I'm not quite sure about, or just particular kind of ways I go about actually doing a page. So today's episode is going to be talking about how to use reference images to help you with your pictures. So this is the one that I'm working on at the moment. This is from Clara Markova's I Believe in Fairies, and I have done the background, and I thought initially when I did this page, well, I was drawn to it because it didn't have any flowers and things, and I've been doing a lot of spring, summer, pages like that, and I just wanted something a bit different, and this is still from the summer section, but I really felt like doing a darker background and yeah, just colouring some different elements. And when I saw this page, I thought that reminds me of the 7 Dwarfs from Snow White, so I immediately thought, great, I can use reference images for this picture. And it really does help if you're not sure on a colour palette, because you can use reference images to give you your colour palette essentially. So I'm going to show you the couple of pictures that I found. I'll talk about once I've picked the pictures, how I feel the pencils will match with that, and whether they'll go together, and then talk generally about once I've got the things that I know I want to reference, how do I then bring that together as a palette, if that makes sense. So I'm going to show you the pictures that I had in mind. So I've got a couple of images on my laptop, and I went through the 7 Dwarfs, but the one that stood out was Doc, because I think, I could be wrong, I think he's one of the only ones that wears glasses, and also he just goes really well with the clothing that's on the character here. Everything just matches really well, so I thought he would be a great character to go for. So with his clothing, it's a bit more muted and dulled down to some of the other colours. Some of the other characters have green, blue and things like that, but I actually really liked the colours that he has. So the brown, but also the orangey brown, contrasts with the blue, which is good, but it won't be just orange and blue. It has some muted tones to it, because this blue isn't even that bright. It's quite a muted, dulled down sort of colour. So I can definitely bring in some of the grey that I used on this background for his beard. And then, yeah, there won't be too many other colours going on for him, which is good. And I want him to stand out, and, with the browns and the orange and things like that. So I thought that would work well. And then the rest of the page, I was kind of wondering, what am I going to do with the mushrooms? Because I do feel like these sorts of mushrooms, when I look at them, they should be a brown ochre colour, and there's some that I really like colouring. Something like this, that sort of colour. But I am just conscious that that is quite similar to the colours we've already got going for the elf. So I have just searched up mushrooms, and it's really good to just use reference images and see what you can come up with. The other thing that I'm going to do is have a look through my books and see what pictures I find, and I will show them to you. But literally anything that you have, if you have anything in your house that's even a pattern or a photo, or just anything that can inspire you, I think that's a really good thing to use. So I definitely will be having a look at that and seeing what I can come up with. So I may use pictures that I've found here on the internet. I mean, this is a really cool sort of picture, and I've used that before as a reference, but I'm going to have a look and just see what I can gather and come up with. So let me move this out of the way. So with reference images, the other thing is you don't have to stick rigidly to them. So you'll see in a moment when I have a look through the books and see what I can find. I might not necessarily just stick to what it says. But the most important thing with references is that they can inspire you, and that's what I really like getting out of them. And you know, using something different, sometimes it's really nice to not have to think too much about colours and use what you have around you. So I'm going to go and find and gather some inspiration, and I will come back and share it with you. Okay, so I've had a look and I've done a whole video on reference books that I have, and books that I use for inspiration for colour combinations. And usually I would gravitate towards my practical colour combinations book, which I use all the time. But I thought I would actually look at some of my go-to books with images and drawings in instead. So the three that I normally go to are Botanicum, which is a miniature version. This is curated by Katie Scott and Kathy Willis. The Wildflowers of Britain by Margaret Erskine Wilson. And then The Secrets of a Devon Wood by Jo Brown. Now the Wildflowers one doesn't have any fungus or mushrooms in, so I just thought I'd share it anyway because it's really good for flowers. And there are some beautiful illustrations. And you can go month by month, so if you're seasonal and you know maybe you're working in the flower year by Leila Dooley and you've got a July flower that you need to find, this is just perfect, and they're just such elegant illustrations. So there's that one. I did find some images in both of these that I'm possibly going to work with for colour palettes and reference. So there is a fungus page. Here we go. And some of these are really beautiful. Just generally the colours that they use are gorgeous. The one that stuck out to me with these, because they're just, I love the fact that they're still quite a bright colour, but it is somewhat dulled down. And I think if I do use this as inspiration, I'll definitely have a more dulled down, muted sort of red colour. But I do really like that because it's not as bright as I've got like a red here, for example. It's not quite as bright as this sort of orangey red, which I think when everyone thinks of a mushroom, usually that's the sort of colour we go for, you know, red with the white dots. So it'll be interesting to maybe work with that and do it differently. Maybe something in between these sorts of colours could work well. But they're just gorgeous references. I think there's a lot I could do with those. And then The Secrets of a Devon Wood book had so many, and these are all drawings. The one that stood out to me was this one. And again, fairly similar to the one I've just shared, but definitely more of a pink colour. They almost remind me of jellyfish, sort of. They've got really, really like detailed veins sort of on them. But there are so many drawings in here of mushrooms and animals and things like that, so definitely potential with a lot of them, but most of them that I saw are a really light brown sort of colour that we've already sort of got. Something, you know, something like this we've already got for our elf character. So yeah, I'm going to see what I can come up with using these colours now as inspiration. And the thing I do like especially about these is that the underneath of the mushroom and the stem is a slightly different colour, which is what I'm going for, because I do want different tones for the top of the mushroom and the underneath. And then once I've picked those out, I'll see how the references go together, and then we will discuss picking the colour palette for the overall page after having taken into account the references. So I've been through my colours, and I thought I would just talk about how I have brought together the palette. So I just went through my swatch and looked at the colours and, you know, to see what would match best with the references that I picked out. So this is going to be the palette for the elf. So these are the colours that I thought best went with the colours from Doc from the reference image. And then these were the colours that I picked out for the mushrooms. Now I may mix some browns with that. I did test what it would be like to layer a few of them, and I really like how that colour came out. So there's definitely potential there with what I can do with those colours, but just because I've swatched them like that, it doesn't mean that they'll look like that on the page. And then after I had figured out those from the references, I considered the other elements on the page. So there's still some things that I'm not too clear on yet, like the feather, but hopefully that will come once the elements start being coloured in on the page. The next thing were the berries, so I thought I would utilise the colours that I've already got and just add one more colour. So this particular one, this mahogany red, will probably look quite similar to the overall colour for the mushroom, but it's got a lot more pink in it, so, well, almost purple actually, so thought that would go quite well. I'm not adding another colour in. And then what else do we have? The grass. So we've got the leaves and the grass and other bits that I can see that will be green on the page. So I wanted to pick a few different colours out just to give me options, because I expect the grass will probably be really dark. But I wanted to pick out more of a muted green. This particular one is celadon green, just because it goes quite well with the muted turquoise. So that ties in with the background. And then I've got, which dark green is this? I've got the marine green and the dark green, which are very, very different. I've got the marine green with lots of brown in it, and then the dark green, which is quite bright. So hopefully as shadow colours, they'll give different effects. So the lime peel as well that I picked out will go quite well with the gold sort of colour that I've got for the hat. So they are the overall colours mixed with the colour for the background. This was the sort of overall palette reduced down to just a few colours. So that is essentially the colour palette that I'm using. And then from that I've got, you know, three colours per colour. So these are all of the pencils. Just gonna move them so you can see. So as well as the blues, that's really the normal amount that I would use in a picture. Usually more if there's more elements, but for something like this where there aren't too many things going on, this is probably the right sort of amount of colours. And for this particular page where I have figured out a colour palette before colouring the whole thing, I sometimes do add more colours to this, but this is the basic palette for me. So I've kind of worked backwards. I've used the references to find my palette rather than searching a palette and then finding the colours. So it is a really good way to figure out a palette for a page and something a bit different. But if you don't use references that much, I'd really recommend trying it out, or I'd recommend finding a palette online that you can then take inspiration from. So yeah, that's pretty much everything, I think. Hopefully you'll see this finished in my May completed pages. If not, it will be a whip, but I may share things along the way. I might not, it really depends if I think there's anything else I need to sort of explain about the page in this video. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope in some way this has been useful. And I'd love to know if you are enjoying these videos, because I know there's something a bit different, they're more chatty. But yeah, if they're not really helping, I don't want to just put them out for the sake of it, because at the end of the day I want to put out content that you're enjoying. So yeah, I'd really appreciate some feedback, you know, if these are beneficial in any way, and if you do follow along with anything, as always, I would love to see. So feel free to email me or contact me in the comments. So yeah, that's everything. I really hope you enjoyed. The only other thing that I can really give with this is that the embellishments that I put on will obviously go with the palette that I've already got. So there'll definitely be some possibly like bronze gel pen and other colours that go with what we've already got. But yeah, that's everything, I think. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all on my next video. Take care, everyone. Bye.